An interesting article showed up in the Jerusalem Post today. The title said, Hamas minister, Israel has another 8 years left. And in this article, Hamas Interior Minister Fadi Hamid predicted on Monday that Israel has only 8 years left before its demise. We are coming after the Zionists with all our leaders and soldiers, Hamid said. You have only 8 years on the land of Palestine before your demise. Hamid was speaking during a military parade organized by Hamas on the 5th anniversary of the IDF's cast-led operation in the Gaza Strip. We are still on the threshold of an Islamic march, and we will enter the Aqsa Mosque as liberators by God's will. The Aqsa Mosque, of course, is the Temple Mount. So, here is this man who is the interior minister for Hamas, which controls Gaza, stating that Israel has 8 years left. Now, this is pretty ironic, because if, in fact, John Kerry reaches his goal of a peace agreement of some sort by April 29th, the Bible says that it will then be 7 years to the Battle of Armageddon. And of course, it's at Armageddon that the enemies of Israel will attempt to wipe her off the map. They will be on the brink of succeeding when Jesus will show up and stop them, defeat the enemies of Israel, and establish his kingdom upon the earth. So I found myself saying, here's this man, he's a Muslim, he doesn't know the prophecies of the Bible. Most Christians wouldn't even know why we would say we may be 8 years away from Armageddon. And yet, out of the blue, he says Israel only has 8 years left before its demise. Pretty interesting things, and I still can't answer the question, why did he choose 8 years? But it is really ironic. John Kerry says we will have some kind of a deal by April the 29th. And if that deal includes establishing a Palestinian state within the area of Judea and putting the Temple Mount under a sharing arrangement between Muslim and Jew, if that deal includes that, it appears to me that that is the peace agreement prophesied in the scriptures that will launch the final 7 years to the Battle of Armageddon. So just very intriguing, interesting things. That's not really what we're going to focus on in its entirety today, but I just thought it was so interesting that I wanted to make sure you were able to hear it. Now, we mentioned in our opening remarks that President Obama set two goals. I believe this was at his speech at the United Nations as he was opening the United Nations during the 2013 General Assembly annual meeting. And he set two goals for his presidency. One, he wanted to bring about a peace agreement between Palestinians and Israelis. And two, he wanted to solve the Iranian problem peacefully so that there would be no conflict. Well, I want to take some time today to just see how things are going. This article appeared yesterday in Israel National News. It was entitled, Kerry, Peace Now in 2014. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said over the weekend that his country is ready to broker an agreement between Israel and the Palestinian Authority at any time or place both sides want. We are ready to make peace now in 2014, Kerry told Arab foreign ministers. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and PA Chief Mahmoud Abbas have both shown courage, Kerry said. The Israelis and Palestinians are currently wrestling with difficult decisions and challenges, he added. Israel has made clear to Kerry that dividing Jerusalem is not on the agenda. So that's a big stance that Netanyahu's taken. I told you over the last several months that that's where Netanyahu would end up standing. At the same time, PA officials reiterated over the weekend that there would be no agreement unless Israel withdrew from all the areas of Jerusalem liberated in the 1967 Six-Day War. So this is a standoff. Netanyahu And he made it clear to Kerry, we're not dividing Jerusalem. No agenda. Don't even talk to me about it. The answer is no. Well, the PA officials say, no deal unless it happens. So what's John Kerry going to do with this information? According to the prophecy of the Bible, he's going to put off the issue. He's going to form an interim agreement, and the Jerusalem issue will be put off until later, until perhaps new leadership takes the helm for both Israel and the Palestinians. We're going to have to wait and see about that. But nevertheless, the Bible does prophesy that Israel will retain control of Jerusalem all the way till the Battle of Armageddon. Now, let's talk about Hamas. Since it's the interior minister of Hamas that said Israel has 8 years left before she's wiped off the map, before she's eliminated. Since Hamas controls Gaza, that's been sort of an X factor in this whole negotiation thing, because Hamas won't come to the table, will not talk to Israel in any way, shape, or form. So you have Abbas out there representing the Fatah organization, and he presides over the West Bank, but Gaza is controlled by Hamas. So what happens if there is a peace deal, including the Palestinians under Abbas, but what if Hamas still controls Gaza and is still lobbing rockets into southern Israel? How are you going to bring Hamas on board? Now, President Obama said he thought once there was peace with Hamas and once the jobs started showing up and the international community began to invest millions and millions and even billions of dollars to build the Palestinian state, which they promised they will do. Once that happens, it's Obama's belief that the people of Gaza will look at that and say to their leaders, hey, we need to get in on this. And Obama believes that there will be a reunification take place between Hamas and Fatah, so that there would be one group representing the Palestinians, not two. Now, with that in mind, this article showed up today in Haaretz newspaper out of Israel. It was entitled, After Crushing Muslim Brotherhood, Egypt Sets Sights on Hamas. Listen to a paragraph or so. After crushing the Muslim Brotherhood at home, Egypt's military rulers plan to undermine the Palestinian militant group Hamas, which runs the neighboring Gaza Strip, senior Egyptian security officials told Reuters. Now, the Gaza Strip it actually boundaries with the northern border of Egypt. The aim, which the officials say could take years to pull off, includes working with Hamas's political rivals, Fatah, and supporting popular anti-Hamas activities in Gaza, Force security and diplomatic officers said. Since it seized power in Egypt last summer, Egypt's military has squeezed Gaza's economy by destroying most of the 1,200 tunnels used to smuggle food, cars, and weapons to the coastal enclave to Gaza, which is under an Israeli blockade. Gaza is next, said one senior security official who requested anonymity because of the sensitivity of the issue. We cannot get liberated from the terrorism of the Brotherhood in Egypt without ending it in Gaza, which lies on our borders. Their day will come. Okay, now what's this really all about? Well, you know that the Muslim Brotherhood won the election in Egypt about a year and a half or so ago. They took over and immediately began to move very rapidly to convert Egypt to an Islamic state. Well, when the people realized what they had voted for, they immediately began to object to it. Demonstrations were held. And once the military saw that they had the popular backing of the people, they then actually put into place a military coup. They arrested Morsi, the elected leader, along with most of the major members of the Muslim Brotherhood, and now then they're charging them with all kinds of actions. They're getting ready to put them on trial. They are moving. They've actually declared the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization, and they have outlawed the Muslim Brotherhood. But the Muslim Brotherhood formed Hamas and was the number one supporter of Hamas. Hamas was cooperating with the Muslim Brotherhood. They thought they had a good thing going, but now then the Muslim Brotherhood is gone. They had like 1,200 tunnels. I'm talking about big tunnels, some of them big enough to drive automobiles through, that they had built between Egypt and Gaza. It was tolerated by the Muslim Brotherhood government. As a matter of fact, it was encouraged. But once the Muslim Brotherhood was gone, the military of Egypt said no more. They moved in. They flooded many of the tunnels, and they have placed Gaza under real strong control because Hamas in Gaza has been a big supporter of the Muslim Brotherhood. So on one hand, we've got Hamas saying Israel won't last 8 years, and on the other hand, it looks like the Hamas may not last for 8 months. So interesting paradox as we see things moving ahead. Oh, by the way, we are going to be taking your calls on the program today. If you'd like to be on the air with us, the number to call is 877 End Time. That's 877-363-8463. To reach our operators, if you'd like to be a part of the Israel Project or you'd like to become a partner with Endtime Ministries, please call 1-800-END-TIME. But to be on the air with me, 877 End Time. So we can see all these stories breaking. Another story that came out in the Jerusalem Post over the weekend, lowering the bar on peace talks. If John Kerry has learned anything, it is that launching the talks is the easy part of peace. And this article analyzes the adjustments that Kerry has been making as he pushes toward this peace agreement in the Middle East. So it's very interesting to see the analysis from an Israeli viewpoint as to what is really going on. Originally, John Kerry had said, our objective will be to achieve a final status agreement over the course of the next 9 months. Now, that 9 months actually began on July the 30th, and now then we're looking at April the 29th to get an agreement done if Kerry is to achieve his goals. Well, that's a whole other subject. We'll be talking about that as we move along the program. You're listening to Politics and Religion. We are taking your calls today. 877-END-TIME is the number to call.